What if I told you that some of the world's most infamous crimes weren't just written in blood, they were written in burnt rubber? Behind every shocking heist, chilling murder, and daring escape, there was a machine quietly waiting in the shadows or on the curb. These vehicles became silent witnesses to chaos, carrying villains, secrets, and headlines. Buckle up. This ride through criminal history is anything but ordinary on today's episode of Horsepower Nation. So let's be honest, every criminal thinks they're smarter than everybody else, until their car becomes a museum exhibit with a do not touch sign on the windshield. To pick our 7 four-wheeled felonies, I looked for just a few key ingredients. Number 1, the crime had to be infamous. Headlines, TV specials, and at least a cult documentary narrated in ominous tones and scary music. Number 2, the car had to matter. Used in the crime, the getaway, or the inevitable "what were they thinking" moment. Number 3, I stuck to the 1950s through today because the 1930s already had enough gangsters in bullet-riddled Fords to fill up about 20 different videos. And lastly, I wanted variety. Serial killers, cults, celebrities, even terrorists, because evil, like horsepower, comes in many different forms. So buckle up. I am counting down from number 7 to number 1, the rides that prove sometimes the scariest thing about crime isn't the criminal, it's their taste in cars. Number 7, the Lotus Carlton 1990, the Gentleman Thief's Jet Sedan. The Lotus Carlton, nothing says I'm committing a felony like doing 170 miles per hour in a British family car. In the early 1990s, a group of UK criminals realized the Lotus Carlton, essentially a Vauxhall Carlton injected with twin-turbo insanity, could outrun just about anything the police owned. They used it for high-speed robberies so daring that even the tabloids clutched their pearls. Now the stats: 3.6-liter twin-turbo inline-6, 377 horsepower, 0 to 60 in just around 5 seconds, and a top speed near 177 miles per hour. Rear-wheel drive, manual gearbox, and all the subtlety of a rocket-powered accountant. Little weird fact, the Lotus Carlton was so fast that British politicians wanted it banned. They argued, who needs a family car that can outrun the cops? The answer to that is criminals, apparently. Now, when the police couldn't catch them, they resorted to watching from the roadside, possibly even applauding the engineering before resuming pursuit. Now there is crime, and then there is crime that is done so classy, Sean Connery will play you in the movie. Number 6, the Cadillac Escalade, assorted models, 1980s to the 2000s. Now basically, it is the mobster's moving fortress. I tried to nail this down to one mafia person, and it's kind of all of them. Now, if you were a mafia boss, a cartel kingpin, or a post-Soviet oligarch, you didn't just drive a car. You commissioned a rolling panic room. Enter the Cadillac Escalade and its armored luxury SUV cousins. From the cocaine-glazed 1980s to the power suit and gold watch 2000s, these vehicles became the unofficial ride of the international criminal elite. Bulletproof glass, steel-reinforced doors, hidden compartments for important paperwork, and of course, enough torque to move a small apartment building. The typical specs: 6.0-liter V8 or bigger, 300 to 500 horsepower, that's pre-armor, and once the armor went on, you could add a few thousand pounds because safety weighs a lot when you're on someone's hit list. Little weird fact, some versions were so heavy they needed upgraded brakes just to stop at traffic lights. But hey, what's a little brake fade when you're surrounded by Kevlar and fear? Now these SUVs said, I'm not just rich, I'm rich enough to be expecting gunfire. I mean, Tony Soprano drove one, enough said. Number 5, the 1979 Oldsmobile Delta 88, John Wayne Gacy's Creepmobile. On the outside, a big, comfy Oldsmobile sedan. On the inside, the stuff of nightmares. John Wayne Gacy, the clown serial killer, suburban contractor by day, serial killer by night, used his 1979 Oldsmobile Delta 88 as both transportation and terror. Now the stats: full-size sedan, rear-wheel drive, 5.7-liter V8, roughly 160 to 180 horsepower, and the acceleration of a brick and loafers. It wasn't fast, but then again, Gacy didn't need speed, he needed trunk space. Now, the Delta 88 was the perfect car for blending in, the kind of vehicle you'd expect to see parked at a PTA meeting, but not tied to one of the darkest crime sprees of the 1970s. Little weird fact, Gacy's Oldsmobile eventually became an exhibit in crime museums. Nothing like turning horror into history, right? Now, if cars could talk, this one would probably just say, "Just put me out of my misery." I think I hate Gacy a little more now than just being a serial killer for ruining the Delta 88 for me. I have always loved that model, specifically the '69 Oldsmobile Delta 88 with the 455 Rocket V8. I saw one at a cruise. It was one of the few luxury muscle cars. It was the sleeper muscle car nobody saw coming. Number 4, the 1988 Toyota Corolla Deluxe, the terrorist's commuter car. Sometimes evil does not roar, it hums along quietly at 35 miles per gallon. Khalid al-Midar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, two of the 9/11 hijackers, drove a 1988 Toyota Corolla Deluxe, arguably the least suspicious car in human history. Now the stats, a 1.6-liter four-cylinder engine, 90 horsepower on a good day, and front-wheel drive. It was beige, it was boring, and it was invisible, which was kind of exactly what they were going for. This car was later found at Dulles Airport, filled with evidence that linked the hijackers to the attacks, flight manuals, notes, receipts. It wasn't used for a chase, just quiet logistics, the most chilling kind of efficiency. Little weird fact, the Corolla has been called the most dependable car in the world. Depressing then that it also would prove to be dependable for terrorists. It's a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying car in the world is not fast, it's forgettable. I've always hated Toyotas, perhaps this is why. Number 3, the 1962 Dodge Power Wagon, Charles Manson's Desert Hauler. Before SUVs were cool, Charles Manson's cult was already off-roading in style. The 1962 Dodge Power Wagon, it's a chunky 4x4 descended from World War II military trucks. It was the Manson family's ticket to their desert hideout at Barker Ranch. Think of it as a doomsday prepper's dream with a side of apocalyptic prophecy. The stats? A 251 cubic inch flathead 6, about 125 horsepower, four-wheel drive, 2-speed transfer case, and a frame strong enough to survive the end of the world, because that's exactly what Manson and his people were planning for. Little weird fact, one of these power wagons still sits near Ballarat, California, as if waiting for the next deranged messiah to put the keys in the ignition. Tourists sometimes trek out there just to see it, proving that true crime fans will go anywhere for content. The power wagon wasn't built for speed, it was built to carry supplies, cultists, and the crushing weight of bad life choices. Number 2, the 1993 Ford Bronco in white, O.J. Simpson's National Road Trip. The most famous slow chase in history began with a white 1993 Ford Bronco, one nervous celebrity, and 95 million viewers who collectively forgot what they were watching on TV before it happened. O.J. Simpson, NFL star turned accused murderer. Let's lose the accused. Was in the backseat while his friend Al Cowlings and possible accomplice drove. Police trailing behind them in what looked more like a parade than a pursuit. Now the stats, it was a 5.8-liter V8, about 210 horsepower, body-on-frame SUV with 4x4. Top speed? Let's call it leisurely, since the chase averaged about 35 miles an hour. Little weird fact, the Bronco's value skyrocketed afterwards. It was bought and displayed in museums because nothing says American icon like a piece of evidence in a double murder case. I watched this one live on TV in a Legends sports bar in Torrance, California. The chase preempted the NBA Finals. Viewers stayed glued to the screen as one man's meltdown turned into primetime entertainment. Reality TV had found its first vehicle. And finally, number 1, the 1968 Volkswagen Beetle, Ted Bundy's unholy bug. And here we are at number 1, the car that proves evil doesn't need horsepower, just hubris. Ted Bundy, America's most infamous serial killer, drove a 1968 Volkswagen Beetle, a beige, unassuming little bubble that looked like it should belong to a college art major, not a total psychopath. Bundy used the Beetle to lure victims, transport them, and hide evidence. Now, when police finally searched it, they found hair, fibers, and the kind of evidence that makes detectives queasy for decades. The stats: a 1.5-liter flat four, about 53 horsepower, rear engine, rear wheel drive, and a top speed barely breaking 80 miles an hour downhill. Not exactly a hot rod, but quietly reliable, kind of like Bundy's charm before things got scary. Little weird fact, the line that Bundy used to entice a majority of his victims: "Hey, could you help me fix my car?" Now, as far as creepy serial killer pickup lines go, that is dark humor gold. The Beetle, proving you do not need a muscle car to be a monster. There you have it, 7 cars that rolled straight into infamy, each proving that evil comes with its own kind of engine and exhaust note. From Bundy's unsuspecting Beetle to OJ's televised Bronco crawl, these vehicles are as much a part of criminal history as fingerprints and bad alibis. They range from rusting power wagons to luxury tanks for mobsters to the Corolla that quietly helped orchestrate one of the larger tragedies of our time. What's fascinating, if grimly so, is how ordinary these machines are. They weren't cursed, they weren't special, they were just tools that ended up in the wrong hands. So next time you see a white Bronco, a beige Corolla, or a perfectly restored Lotus Carlton, don't panic. Just remember, it's not the car that's dangerous, it's the driver. Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope you liked it. Please like, subscribe, share the channel, definitely watch more videos. As always, take care, have yourself a great day.